But I want to come back very specifically on what Jim said before the break when he told people we have a Lehman situation. We do not have a Lehman situation at the moment. That would be untrue to say that to people. We have the fear that there may be a Lehman situation further down the line. It is a very uncomfortable time for the banks. There is a convergence of funding needs for the banks in Europe. And it is a very dangerous time, perhaps, for some people to lend to the banks, Jim. But to tell people at home we have a Lehman situation is simply not correct. We are not there at this stage.
No, we're not there at this stage, but I think it's important to tell people that's what the scenario is.
No, that isn't the scenario. Lehman's was left to go to the wall. There is no indication. And remember, overnight, somebody has borrowed, and we don't know who, 500 million euros from the ECB. There is no bank being left to flay in the wind at this stage. That would be an untrue thing to say to people.
I don't think it's so untrue. I think it's a less of a probability. I think that the banks obviously learned their lesson. I think the institutions in Europe, I think the ECB learned the lesson.
A different situation then? Well, a different situation this time round?
I think people are trading as if it is. I believe that people learn the lesson and would not do what Lehman says. At the same time, I do know that there's large hedge funds that are concerned about the liquidity of banks, and they're going to try to do what they did here. I don't think a Lehman situation
hedge funds.
But,
so you're
quoting hedge funds. It's not correct. I don't think
hedge funds that are attempting to make money by destroying the equity of the banks, and you're citing that as a golden light of what we should follow as being the truth in the market.
I think that if you have a deep in the money call with one of these banks, you don't want to get caught in a situation where you fear the bankruptcy of a bank. Even if you think that if you're a fiduciary, you've got to act. Okay, you can't just sit there and say, you know what, I think everything's fine. Do I think it's Lehman? No. But if I don't sit here and tell you that's what...
That's my point, because what will happen is the rest of the equity investors will go, we're going to have a major implosion of a bank with all the contagion risks that involves, and that is not going to happen here, Jim.
I got crucified because I said that you can keep your money in Bear Stearns. I got crucified in this country. I learned my lesson too, which is you can't be as confident as you'd like.
Fine,
I never said that you should buy Bear Stearns. I said it was okay to keep your money there.
You told people to buy Bear Stearns. That's a very different argument from me saying we're not about to have a European bank.
In 36 hours, Bear Stearns fell apart. Okay, in 36 hours it fell apart. And it was fine to say that it wasn't going to fall apart, and then it fell apart. My first call was that it was okay to keep your money there, which turned out to be true. All I'm saying is that I don't want to give people false assurances. I think things are better than they were. I can't give false assurances.
Hold on, guys. Let's calm down a little bit. I think that you two are not too far off base. Simon is saying we don't have a Lehman-like situation on our hands.
Correct.
Cramer's thinking, as an investor, as a money manager, as somebody who has a fiduciary responsibility to your investors, you have to think about what the possibilities are.
Which is exactly the point that Dario had just made.
Right. No one can say that it's completely off the table.
It may be a fat tail risk, but it is a risk.
So protect yourself,
it is a risk.
And
the regulators saw it.
You guys are not really too far off.
No, we're not. I'm saying the regulators saw it, but I also have to tell you what people are doing, okay? And the reason I have to do that is because, you know what, I didn't know that they were doing it as much as they are doing it in 2008, and I can't give false assurances because I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson as someone who has a TV show, who did not want to inspire panic, who did not know things were falling apart that quickly, but the Europeans obviously know that this could happen, and they're going to backstop it. But for me to say that people aren't worried that there's a Lehman situation is to run the risk 2 weeks from now from having a full-page ad in saying Cramer said it would never be another Lehman, and I'm not saying that.
So 4 years after that fact, you still live with that?
Every day. Every day that I said an institution was okay.
And that's why we have this sort of market reaction to every little snippet of news coming out of Europe, because people didn't think that the inevitable, what seemed like the inevitable, could be true.
Right. The funding, people are obviously reluctant. Clearly, people in Asia and the United States are increasingly reluctant to lend to European banks. And we're going to have an analyst on at the top of the hour who will say exactly that. That's what we discussed on the program last week. That's why the Fed is calling these guys in, the New York Fed, to talk about it. There is clearly an issue there, but the situation is very, we hope, different this time round, surely.
And I think
that's all I want to say.
We're not that far apart, but I also
let's not say that a bank is about to go to the wall, please.
I am not thinking there will be a Lehman. But
cool.
I also
That's all I'm asking you to say.
But I also know that if I don't talk about some thinking that, then I will be pilloried as someone who was a Pollyanna, and I ain't no Pollyanna.
The risk is you create panic in the market, Jim, because people follow you and listen to you.
That's true. There is a distinction, but one must also bring up the possibility, because that influences investment decisions and what you can do right now to protect yourself.
Right. I do not
think about the worst case scenario and think about every way to avoid your portfolio from being decimated. David Faber, I know you're...
Melissa.